My husband, 37, took his nephew Tween in after his dad, my husband's brother, was diagnosed with cancer. He told me his nephew would stay with us until his dad completes his chemo treatment. I agreed, although he didn't consult me about it first. I told him that he'd be his responsibility, not mine. He asked me to explain why, and I said that it was because 1. He didn't consult me before taking his nephew in, and 2. I'm not equipped nor experienced in taking care, being committed to childcare. I still have to cook and clean. He said it was fine and he'd be taking care of him alone. The other day he called me in the afternoon saying he was stuck in a 2-hour meeting and asked if I could go pick his nephew up from school. I said I was having lunch with Mom and discussing family issues. He insisted, but I reminded him that he said he'd be taking care of his nephew, including school pickup and drop-off. I suggested he try to get off work or call some other family member to go pick him up. He tried to argue, but I hung up. I went home at 3 and surprisingly found my husband there. He was angry, he started yelling at me, calling me selfish and unfeeling. I told him that his lack of management wasn't my fault. He yelled, saying that my lunch with Mom could have waited, but I chose to be damn petty to prove a point. I said that wasn't true and told him to get over himself and stop acting like he was the victim when he put himself in this situation, knowing he wouldn't commit. He yelled that he was trying to do all he could to help his brother out, but it was me who was playing victim after I refused to help out. So we argued some more and I ended up staying with my mom for the night. I turned off my phone when he texted me some choice words. We're still arguing about it. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I suggested he call some family member to go pick him up. That's exactly what he did. His wife, who should be a partner in the relationship. You're displaying zero empathy for a family suffering through the effects of cancer. Your husband may lose his brother and your nephew his dad, but you'd rather score petty points because you weren't consulted about helping a family going through chemotherapy. You better hope you never get cancer, because I'm not sure you'll have a support system. Damn, this must be so hard for you, driving to a school, then picking up a kid. Then you have to go home. All of it interrupts your lunch date with your mom. Oh, the humanity. His brother has cancer. Get a grip and stop being a self-centered child. He's not a stupid dog. You can't just say, you brought him home, he's not my problem. Also weird that you're married, yet you chose to call this child your husband's nephew, and never once do you say our nephew, even though you are his aunt by marriage. This story reads like her husband is her annoying roommate and not her husband or partner. Seems like a very individualized situation instead of a partnership. Plus, regardless, how is any of this the nephew's fault? Why take it out on him? Yes, he should have made sure it was okay with you first, but I'm sure his mind was concerned for his sick brother and just assumed his wife would help both family and himself out. I don't believe that makes him an idiot. You, on the other hand, acted like he put the weight of the world on your shoulders by asking you to do one thing for his nephew. If you don't care enough about your nephew to pick him up, the least you could have cared about was your husband's job, that you made him leave early. You sound very self-centered and I'm not sure how this marriage will work for you. You married a man who would do anything for his family, and with marriage being a team effort, you've shown you wouldn't lift a finger for his. My wife and I have been together for 6 years, and I'm willing to admit that she didn't start acting like this until we got pets. She was a very compromising and solution-finding individual before getting the animals. My father's home burnt down and he ended up staying at a hostel. I told him he could stay with us, but he refused as he didn't want to be a burden. He did ask that I take in his animals temporarily, however. He has a dog and 3 cats. Our household has been completely pet-free for the entire time we've been together. I ran it by the old lady, and she said it was fine, provided it wasn't for a long time. She's never wanted animals. It's been 4 months now, and my wife is slowly starting to become a person I've never seen her to be. The dog will stare at her when she's eating and whine, and my wife gets angry. The dog is definitely begging, and I understand it's irritating, but she's being kind of ridiculous. She'll tell the dog to go in the other room, which is entirely okay with me, but then becomes super frustrated because the dog will poke his head out of the doorway and stare her down while she's eating while licking his mouth and whining. It just frustrates her beyond belief. It didn't originally, but it certainly does now. She's been eating on the porch most nights because she's tired of being watched and unable to eat her food in peace. Or the cats, whom she likes a lot more than the dog, are even starting to make her angry. Like if she's reading a book, the cats immediately run over and knock the book out of her hands. The second she picks up her phone, the smallest cat will come over and attack her hands, trying to play, or they'll all come in and start getting on her at 3 a.m. every single night. I've seen it happen. She isn't exaggerating about it. It's like the second she tries to do anything at all, the cats are all over her. And again, I get it, it's frustrating, but she is being ridiculous. She lost it yesterday and tossed the cat off the bed after the cat ripped the phone from her hands while she was on a phone call. She yelled at the dog to get away from her this morning because she was cooking and the dog kept trying to jump on her, like screaming at the dog. I'm getting quite fed up with the constant tension and told her to come off it and stop being a drama queen after she yelled at me that she was sick of being mauled all the time. She left, didn't even turn off the stove, just stormed out of the house and hasn't come back. Am I the idiot? I feel she was going overboard and it came off harsher than intended. You are the idiot. You're so belittling. She gets woken up in the middle of the night and she's being ridiculous. The dog keeps trying to jump on her while she's cooking on the stove and you're getting quite fed up. She said she'd take them provided it wasn't for a long time. Unless you're speaking about geologic time, 4 months is most certainly a long time to be housing pets you never wanted. Yeah, this part got me. As soon as I saw 4 months, I was like, that's a third of a whole year. That's a long time to deal with someone else's pets when you're not used to them and don't want them. OP needs to resolve this problem ASAP. You are so much the idiot here. Your wife has valid complaints. I notice you said nothing about how long they're expected to stay, meaning there is no end date. Board them. Help your father find a place. Start being proactive rather than passively complaining. Those pets need to go, or you should pay for your place and enjoy the pets to your heart's content. You're lucky she only slowly is becoming someone you don't recognize. If it were me, I'd have been there a long time before her. I'm getting married in 3 months and I've sent out the invitations. In the invites and emails I've sent to my guests, I've only requested people avoid wearing white, for obvious reasons, and emerald green, bridesmaid's dress colour. I've also asked people to RSVP until a certain date, or else I won't include them in the reception dinner since the price per person is very expensive, so I don't want to pay for people who won't show up at all. So basically those 2 rules, nothing else. Kids are invited, families are invited, and I couldn't care less about what my guests choose to wear except those 2 colours I mentioned above. For context about my sister-in-law, she's my fiancé's sister. We have an okay relationship. Not extremely friendly, but we don't hate each other either, and we get along. During my fiancé's birthday celebration, some friends and I were chatting about the wedding, and they were telling me how they're surprised how chill I am about the wedding rules, and how it's refreshing to go to a wedding where they won't feel like they're walking on eggshells. I said that wasn't me at all, and I just wanted my guests to have fun as well, so I didn't want to put many limitations. The girlfriend of one of my fiancé's friends also showed me the dress she's thinking of wearing to our wedding and wanted my approval on whether it's acceptable or if I believe she'd overshadow me. It's a yellow dress on the revealing side, but I honestly loved it, and I told her to go ahead and wear it. I told her I'm the bride, it's not easy to overshadow the bride, and if someone does, well, it sucks for me, but it's really not that deep. I didn't say it to shade my sister-in-law, but she took offense to everything I said and called me a pretentious idiot. She took offense because she had multiple rules on her wedding, child-free, strict dress code and all that. Of course, we abided by those rules back then because her wedding, her rule, of course. I never intended to offend her. I was just stating my own rules and mindset behind all my organisation. She called me out and said I enjoyed subtly shading her. She called me a snake and told me if I had to say something I should say it in her face. Then she and her husband left the party. My mother-in-law told me that my sister-in-law overreacted indeed, but I'm also at fault because I flaunted how chill and different I am and rubbed it in her face to make her feel bad about her own wedding. However, my fiancé said I did nothing wrong and sister-in-law would grow up and get over it. Could I be the idiot? Not the idiot. She likely knows she was over the top with her wedding rules and internalized everything you said. That's her problem, not yours. She's probably also jealous that you're chill about your wedding and you get to enjoy the process. Don't apologize to her. She's the one dramatic idiot. And here I thought it was the sun the earth revolves around, and it turns out it's your sister-in-law. You can't be responsible for people's reactions who make stuff about them when it's not remotely about them. I am impressed though, I gotta tell you. It's the rare bridezilla who can keep being bridezilla with someone else's wedding. So your formerly bridezilla sister-in-law is butthurt because you're confident that you won't be outshined on your wedding day when some of her wedding rules may have been crafted to prevent that exact scenario. Your day, your way. Congratulations. I hope you have a fantastic wedding. I'm a single mother and I live with my 2 kids, Adam, male 24, and Zoe, teen female. Adam pays me rent but pays significantly less than he would be paying if he went to go live elsewhere, even with roommates. Rent is very expensive in our area and he's living with me while working full-time to save up for a deposit on a house. Around a month ago, Adam asked if his girlfriend of 10 months, Millie, 23, could stay in his room as she didn't get along with her parents and was struggling to find somewhere to live. I agreed because they're both adults and I've met Millie quite a few times, and I thought she was a really nice girl. At first it was going fine, but last week something happened. I came home from work a few hours early, and I walked in on Millie yelling in Zoe's face and swearing at her. Millie went silent when she noticed me, and I asked what the heck was going on. Millie ran off into her and Adam's room, and Zoe was crying. I asked Zoe what happened, and she said she accidentally spilled Pepsi on Millie's jeans and that she tried to apologize, but Millie blew up at her. I knocked on the door and told Millie we needed to talk. I asked for her side of the story, and Millie accused Zoe of spilling her drink on purpose and pretending it was an accident and said they were expensive jeans. I told Millie that I would get Zoe to wash her jeans for her. Millie had a blank look. I asked Millie what she thinks could help make things right, to which she said, "I don't know." I told her I understood she was annoyed, but she doesn't get to treat my minor daughter like that, and that if she does it again, she'll be out. If she has another problem involving Zoe that isn't an emergency, she should contact me before taking it into her own hands. I left it at that. Zoe washed her jeans and returned them to her clean and dry the next day. Millie told Adam what happened, and they're both accusing me of being unfair and said my comment about Millie being out was abusive. I think what I did was perfectly fair. I told my older sister about what happened and asked what she thought, and she said I was being too harsh on Adam and Millie and said I needed to chill. So now you know why Millie doesn't get along with her parents. You are not the idiot. I'd asked Zoe if this has happened before. Millie's willingness to go ballistic on Zoe was inappropriate and abusive. Adam is getting a toned-down version of what happened if he thinks Millie is not at fault. I keep an eye on her. Exactly. OP, please talk to your daughter about this and check in on her, and make sure she knows to come to you if they treat her that way again. Also, did she not know washing machines are a thing? It's Pepsi, not acid. It'll wash. She was struggling to find somewhere to live. Gee, I wonder why. She has to go. She felt comfortable enough to casually abuse your daughter in her own home and then doubled down and said your daughter did it deliberately to justify her response. She wants to punish. That may be your son's thing, but he absolutely cannot visit that upon his sister. Your son will threaten to go as well. Help them pack. I, male teen, have a stepmom, Carrie, 46. She's been my stepmom since I was 6. My mom and dad divorced when I was a toddler after he caught my mom cheating. My mom then moved in with her affair partner, Tim. Tim has always been a huge idiot. At first he seemed nice, but then after he and my mom got married, it became insulting, and he always tried to get me to call him Dad even though he knew I hated him. Tim would say things like, "I've stepped up to take care of you while your deadbeat father stood around and did nothing, so call me Dad." Even though my dad had most of the custody and Tim never even did anything to take care of me. Like when I was 10 and it was raining, I called him and asked him to pick me up from school, but he told me to shut up and he was watching football, so I had to walk home in a t-shirt and shorts while it was raining, and then when I got home my mum yelled at me for being wet. 2 years ago I had enough and went to live with my dad full time, and I refused to see my mom or Tim. As far as I'm concerned, they're dead to me because they treated me like crap for years. My stepmom Carrie always helped me escape from my mom and Tim's toxicity. When I was little, she would read me bedtime stories and would play with me. She's an amazing person and I consider her to be my real mom. Last year my dad got sick and he's worried that he may not live, so Carrie brought up the idea of adopting me so I won't have to go live with my mom and Tim if my dad dies. They asked me how I felt and I said absolutely, and we immediately signed the adoption papers. My mother then gave up her parental rights, and honestly I was happy but also sad because it meant she didn't care about me. The conflict comes up though because yesterday Tim showed up at my dad's house and demanded that I go to my mom's with him. I told him no and to screw off, and he got angry and said, "I'm your father, you little brat, so get your butt over here and go back to your real parents' house." By this point, my dad came out and threatened to call the police, so he left. Now Carrie and my dad are getting crap from my bio-mom's family on social media for her adopting me. So I want to know if I was wrong to let Carrie adopt me. Am I the idiot? Absolutely not the idiot, and it sounds like your stepdad just learned about not being able to claim you as a dependent on his tax returns. The idiot in this situation is your stepdad, not you. She voluntarily terminated her rights. She and Tim are legal strangers to you now and have zero power or authority over you whatsoever. None. They can't command you to do anything ever again. You never have to see either of them again if that's what you want. You deserve to be happy and feel safe and loved. Your new mom sounds like a wonderful lady who loves you very much. Your bio mom needs to call off her flying monkeys and leave you guys alone. Please document or have your parents document all of this behavior and make a case to get a restraining order. Your dad is protecting you. If your mom wanted to be your real mom forever, she should have done a better job of it. However, if your stepmom is the one who's been in the role of mom and who you'd want to live with if your father passed, it makes sense to allow her to adopt you, and it's wonderful that she cares enough to do so. I'm sorry those people are doing this to you when you're already going through such a difficult time.